All right, we're back for week 2 of fantasy football preview. We're down a man, after all the talk last week of making it early and how that didn't matter to anyone who was watching. And, I made fun of Max, and Max has been the only one not the only one, I'm sorry. Max has showed up on time now that we shamed him into doing so. We lose Seth. We're down a man. So, Seth, this is strike one, absence number 1 for the season. 3 strikes. I think it's, you're out, man.
Yep.
We'll see about that.
Notice I have yet to miss a show, 100% success rate. So I'm like Cal Ripken, but nobody cares.
Mark is ever, and he's actually put in some overtime. We've done some separate little side shows. So
He didn't even give me an introduction at the beginning of the show.
I might get you 6 strikes, Mark. How about that? Oh, man. But so, we're down a man. We're fine. We still got a show to do, and we can do it. And we won't have some echoing this week because Seth couldn't figure out his mic situation. So maybe that's why he's taking a week off. He was too ashamed of his microphone to come back. But
a good host doesn't throw his panelists under the bus.
I can do what I want, so this is my show. No, our show. I'm nice. I'm not this mean usually. I'm doing it for the camera. I'm putting on a show. Literally. But we're going to jump right in and go with headlines and injuries. I'm going to run through injuries because I think we can spend a little time on the one and only headline that there is this week. So things to keep an eye on, and if you guys want to cut me off and mention anything about these, just do so. Feel free. The ones that stood out to me, I only have a couple here listed. So Marshalls and Jeffrey, the wideouts in Baltimore, are both listed as questionable right now. Jeffrey has a hamstring situation going on, and Marshall has something with his ankle. They're probably going to play. I don't see them missing time, but just in case, someone that might be worth some consideration that is only owned in like 2% of leagues right now, who I didn't even know was in Chicago until I looked at this, was Santonio Holmes. Just to throw his name out there, it's funny how far things have come in just a few years. You get caught smoking pot, and things just go downhill.
He's also a little old.
Yeah, he's getting up there. He's definitely getting up there. So, but if one of those guys misses time, they're going to go to a veteran presence, and he did last week. I think he only had like 2 points in our league. Beyond him, Eddie Lacy had a concussion, left the game early last week, but he is, getting back up to speed quickly, so he should be good to go. The other one, Cecil Shorts, is iffy if he'll make it back this week. I know he missed last week. And name to look out for there, Alan Hearns sort of bursted onto the scene last week in the Eagles game, or the game against the Eagles. He goes against another pretty weak secondary this week in Washington. So if Shorts isn't good to go, maybe give Hearns a look.
Hearns is going to bust off the scene just as fast as he busted on.
That's what I'm kind of concerned about, because now he's a rookie. That was his first game, and now guys know to cover him, but you never know. Out in Oakland, Maurice Jones-Drew, sort of a weird one to look out for here. He has a hand injury that is different from another hand injury he had in the preseason. That they're not. He's listed as day-to-day right now. Probably going to be a game-time decision, but that gives more reason to have Darren McFadden on your roster, who will probably get hurt because he's going to see more time on Sunday. But something to look out for there. And then the last one, this one, Max, you'll appreciate. Your boy Doug Martin is probably going to be out with a knee injury. He left the game Sunday against the Panthers, so keep an eye on that. Continues to be a big bust.
Also, no Sean Moreno. He's listed as questionable. I only know this because he's on my team. He's listed as questionable due to a shoulder injury, which I didn't see during his game. But apparently he was listed as limited practice participant today.
Don't be fooled. That guy shows up in the injury report like all the time.
Yeah. Looking at the injury reports, man, the only one that was like extensive, I don't know if this is normal. Maybe you could speak to this, Mark. The Steelers had like just a ginormous list of names for no reason whatsoever, it seemed like. Like a lot of them said not injury related. Like Ben was on there, and Antonio Brown was on. I mean, you could run down every name on that roster. I'm pretty sure everyone was on there.
Well, maybe Tomlin's thorough.
Maybe.
He's being courteous to the media.
It was easily twice as long as the next longest list.
Were they all probable?
Yeah, a lot of probables, a couple questionables, but it was just... And the weird thing was, this was off of NFL.com. and a lot of them were it said not injury related under the type of injury. So I don't know what that means.
You know why? A lot of that's coming out now because of the Thursday game. So you're probably getting that level of detail because the game's closer.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Thursday games. They sneak up on you. So I guess to the headline today. This will be tomorrow by the time it gets posted. But Ray Rice and this whole video situation. Did the NFL see it? Did they not see it? Did they have the tape? Did they not have the tape? All over the place. It's a mess. Heads are gonna roll. That's a line we love. But what happens with this?
Well, Ray Rice doesn't play for the rest of the season. There are a lot of unknowns, but one known is that Ray Rice will not be playing in the NFL. If you still want to even think about his name in relation to fantasy football, even though it's not very important in the grand scheme of what's going on, just cut him from your team because he's not going to be playing.
Mark, any 2 cents you want to throw in on this?
I'm very confused by the whole, because if you stop and think of it, I know they don't want to see the tape, and that's probably what they did, and that's why they handed the 2-game suspension. But they had to realize that the tape's going to come out eventually. Yeah. So I don't really get like the process there, or like the idea of a conspiracy theory. Is it just wild incompetence?
That's what it seems like to me. That's the only rational explanation I can come up with, because I mean at this point it's like a cover up of a cover up of a cover up. I mean it's one thing after another. You know they lie about whether it is a lie. I don't know, accusations and all that, but it just everything they say gets contradicted within like the next 12 hours. It seems like so.
Maybe that was their plan, just confuse everyone, and then no one can be blamed. But it fits their MO. It seems like whenever they don't take drastic action until they're faced with like a substantial PR like scandal. You saw this with Bountygate too. It became a big thing, and then all of a sudden, enormous punishment. And it's the same thing here. The Ray Rice video wasn't a thing. Small punishment. It came out. Time to drop the hammer. So I guess the problem I have is why didn't they just get this tape?
It's so puzzling on so many levels. So they saw the tape of just the abbreviated tape, which was just him dragging her out of the elevator. Well, like the simplest, easiest question, if you're an investigator, would be like, okay, what happens seconds before this? There's obviously footage. It's just it's so ridiculous on so many levels.
And the thing is, they say, you know, yesterday, Tuesday. Goodell was saying that they requested the tape from the Atlanta County Police Department and the investigator, whoever had possession of it. They requested it and weren't granted access. Now, today they're saying that yes, the Atlanta County people are saying they sent the tape and all that good stuff. But I mean, even if they didn't want to go through the police department and all that, they could have just gone to the hotel.
Right. Yeah, you can't just keep. Oh, go ahead.
If they wanted to find it, they would have found it.
Right. You can't just keep passing the buck. Like I think it was actually Michelle Beadle who I heard say this. Like the tape was obtainable. TMZ got it, and somebody else apparently had it. So it was possible to get. You can't use the excuse that we didn't get the tape because you could have gotten the tape. You're the NFL. You go into a casino and say, hey, we're doing an investigation and we need to see this tape. You get the tape. It's not that.
You saw that with MLB. Essentially did the same thing when A-Rod got in that trouble with the biogenesis scandal. They opened their wallet and got the evidence before A-Rod got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ray Rice's lawyer. He was another one who had the tape. So the tape is out there. Somebody can get the tape. You can get the tape too if you're a professional investigator.
We could have gotten the tape. We were at Revel not that long ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we could have gone in there and asked, but they were.
Oh man.
They were so close to death, that casino. They probably were just like, oh, okay, who cares? We'll give you the tape.
Here, we'll burn how many copies you want.
Yeah.
Oh man. Enough of him though. Enough of that show. So, back to our show. We're introducing a new segment this week, courtesy of Max. Your suggestion. a little right and wrong for what we did, a little review of our in fantasy team. It's a quick way just to know around at we did and what worked for us, what didn't work for us, and maybe so. I think just the segment. I don't see why you pick it up. Max.
What? I'm sorry, you were breaking up there. I didn't hear you.
My bad. I was saying, since you suggested the segment, you can kick it off.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, there were some audio issues there. So what worked? Actually, there's a lot that didn't work. I'm actually lucky I won my first game because
you are.
It was against Mark, and I benched Noshawn Moreno, who was, I believe, he was the #1 rusher this week out of all the NFL, which was, I mean, nobody saw it coming. It's crazy. He went off. So he had 20 points, but it was on my bench because who's going to start Noshawn Moreno? Not me. I wasn't going to. But still, there were a lot that didn't work. Keenan Allen, he did not work. I think I drafted him in the second round, maybe third. He only had 4 points for me for San Diego. But Carson Palmer, man, coming through in the clutch, that's really what carried me to victory, which is like the first time I've ever said that in my life. Carson Palmer carrying me to victory. So, and that is actually, he was going to ride the bench too. Cam Newton is my starter, and he was listed as an active, like very close to kickoff of his game, and I just happened to be looking at my app, and I was like, oh no, Cam Newton's not playing. So fortunately, I had Carson Palmer, whose game was the night game on the Monday night game. So I lucked out. I put in Carson Palmer, and that won me the game.
You were so close to not playing Newton. I was watching.
I know. I was 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm sure Mark was watching, like counting the seconds. Yeah, it was really close. So that was big. I mean, the Chiefs D really let me down. I dropped them. I thought they were going to have a strong D again this year. But maybe Tennessee's that good. They went up against Tennessee. I really don't know. But I don't want to hold on to them and find out. I dropped them actually for Tennessee's D. So I swapped them out. Yeah, that's pretty much what worked and what didn't.
Mark?
Well, not much. Well, let's start there. You heard half of it. My team's pretty top heavy, so Drew Brees and Jamal Charles are heavy hitters on my team, and they did nothing, so that doesn't help. Nobody else could pick up the slack. Charles Clay did nothing. Drew did nothing. Steelers D did nothing for me. That's pretty much it. No analysis. Poor play.
It was an army of twos. Jamal Charles had 2 points. Charles Clay had 2 points. Maurice Jones-Drew had 2 points, and Steelers D had 2 points.
Can't win with twos.
Nope.
Did anything go right? Any good decisions?
Antonio Brown played well, but that was the game plan.
And your kicker.
Yeah.
Dan Carpenter, he was the number 3 scorer behind Drew Brees. Behind Drew Brees.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, Mark.
Conventional way to win the game.
Well, my big wrong is that I decided to draft Bernard Pierce, thinking he would step up and do something in place of our boy Ray Rice. And that didn't happen at all. Bernard had like 17 yards, and then he fumbled the ball and was benched for the rest of the game. So I got a good -1 point out of him. And in his place, or who would have been in his place, I had Sproles, because I had Pierce in my flex position, so I could go wide receiver or running back there. And I had some good points on my bench. I had 15 from Sproles, who that's one of those weird situations. Like I know that he had one really good play, the 40-some yard run that really boosted his points, but you didn't know going into his first real game with the Eagles what kind of action he was going to get. So it was a risky bet if I did go with it, and it would have paid off this week. But we don't know if that'll continue. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch. The other guy I could have subbed in was Hakeem Nicks, only because he had double-digit points in his first week. That's not something that's going to sustain unless someone up the line ahead of him gets injured. But that's something else to watch. That went right for me. This is a bit of a stretch right now. I know it's only 1 week, but Arian Foster didn't necessarily score a lot of points, 10 points in our league, but he did get 29 touches, and that just, I mean, as long as he stays healthy, it's clear that Bill O'Brien is going to go to him. I look back just briefly at his stats from Penn State, and he averaged something like he averaged more runs per game than he did passes. So with that, I know it's a different kind of offense, college offense versus a pro offense, but he has a clear desire to run the ball. So I as long as, like I said, Foster can stay healthy, I think he'll get the touches, and eventually he'll go up against the defenses that aren't good against the run. This week he's got last week was Washington. This week he's got Oakland.
Washington.
I think Oakland.
No, that's last week.
So and Oakland is just terrible against the run. So I don't see, and it's just got the potential to be a good game for him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that I like that. That's a good segment.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. So moving on. I guess we can do a little bit of recap of last week. We did a little bit of recap last week, but an MVP of last week.
Oh, Calvin Johnson, right? Calvin Johnson. If you also want to consider like what damage they're going to do as the year goes on, Stafford to Johnson. Oh my goodness. If you have Johnson, good job. You're going to do well this year because he has the power to carry teams, as he showed on Monday. He's awesome, and they look better than ever.
I don't know that he's going to get obviously that many touchdowns a game, but did you see that play? The two D-backs collided, and then he was just within like 30 yards of him.
Yes, I'll talk about the Giants later as we talk about matchups we like. But yeah, it's.
I got some stuff with the Giants too.
Well, you want to go with your MVP?
All right, sure. It's not. I'll do one obvious one, and one obvious but less so one. And the first one is Matt Ryan. And that's pretty easy since he scored a ton of points. But the other factor to consider is draft position. It's not so much that your first round pick goes up. We're kind of expecting that, but when you're getting like a 5th or 6th round pick that's doing the same thing, you're kind of leveraging that advantage. And thus the MVP is born.
And he didn't even start in our league. He rode the pine behind Tony Romo this week.
Oh, that's
not on any of our teams, but yeah.
So yeah, getting the production and not paying the price, always a good thing. And the lesser version of that is Andrew Luck, who I will put in every MVP discussion because he's probably my favorite player right now.
He's awesome.
Yeah. He's so much fun to watch.
Yep. The key is just to get him down by like 3 touchdowns at the start of the 4th quarter, and then just watch the magic happen.
And watch him sling those deep passes without a care in the world.
Oh man,
Mr. Fourth Quarter.
I have a kind of controversial one. I brought his name up, and I know that he was only he was number 2. There's number 2 out of wide receivers right now. That's not going to last. But Mr. Hearns, Alan Hearns, Jacksonville. Surprised guys. I mean, clearly, he had I think only 4 catches and 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. First pro catch was a touchdown. So I guess the defense that's suspect. But you laugh. But he's if they don't have Cecil Shorts, it's a guy that can potentially continue to be a top target for them. He's got the speed and ability, and can make the catch and go for scores and whatnot. So I don't see why not. The other one, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but just looking at it, the second half of last week, Nick Foles, that same game, was a completely different quarterback. Executed guy. I don't know if it was first half nerves coming out, starting the season and whatnot, but he was a second half MVP, if you ask me.
As long as you cram him in the MVP discussion, that's all that matters, right? I will quibble with your first pick, the Hearns pick, because I don't think it's really in the spirit of this segment, because he played well, but nobody started him.
It was a weekly MVP. You don't have to be started to be an MVP. I mean, we just had another guy that was not. He was on the bench behind, riding the pine behind.
Fair enough.
So I don't see why. I said it was going to be a controversial pick, but he put up the points, and of all the guys in wide receivers or all the guys fantasy football wide receivers, he is ranked number 2 right now. So behind a guy that was also mentioned in this little mini segment. So the points are there. The numbers never lie. So how about looking ahead now? Fantasy potential MVPs for next week.
Andrew Luck.
I got it. Calvin Johnson.
I'm really looking forward to that Colts Eagles game. That is
gonna be a fun one.
That's quite a prime time matchup.
It's awesome.
So I'm gonna go a little bit different from you guys. I have the entire New Orleans Saints offense. They're going up against Cleveland. I know I think it's at Cleveland, but that's okay. Saints are a little bit of a different team on the road, but it's Cleveland. They showed a little bit of spark in them last week coming back against Pittsburgh, but that's just them trying to keep fans interested for the first month of the season. But them, and then also I'm going to go a little homer for myself and say Arian Foster. So I think he's set up in that open matchup to get those kinds of touches and against a team that has been in the bottom 3 teams of the NFL the last however many years against the rush. So he's primed for a breakout. I can be a little for myself, can I?
I got some ammo for the next segment, so hold that thought.
Okay. So are you guys not switching up anything else?
No, I think Calvin Johnson is he's going to be again the fantasy star, the fantasy darling of this year.
All right.
I think he looks awesome.
So matchups you're looking forward to and matchups to avoid.
Matchups I'm looking forward to this year. Every year there seems to be a team that's like start everybody against X, against that team. And my team, that dumpster fire for this year, is the New York Giants. They look bad. They look like the worst team that we've seen, like worse than any New York Giants team we've ever seen since we've been following football. Like they look like the whole team is in shambles on both sides of the ball. So I can't wait to start Carson Palmer against the Giants. It's going to be awesome. I can't believe that that ESPN is only projecting Carson Palmer to have 11 points. Even if Cam Newton's healthy, I'm starting Carson Palmer against the Giants.
Is that New York?
Giants.
Yes, and that's very, very important.
No, it's
that
not.
game, New York hosting Arizona, is a classic trap game. That is almost by definition.
No.
West Coast team coming from a primetime game with a big win, going on the East Coast for a 1 o'clock game. That is the stereotypical trap game. With a shaky QB and no running game, oh man, you take the Giants every time.
Carson Palmer is not a shaky QB.
Yes,
he had a good season last year, a really good season last year.
Half of a good season.
And if you look at his year-end stats, he had a typically what would be known as a very good season. And he also had a great game in week 1. I think the Giants are that bad, and Arizona is actually that good for Carson Palmer to blow. For anyone's going to blow up against the Giants, that defense is inept, and as is the offense. Everything.
Oh, I came prepared for this too. It's just the classic clash of week 1. On one end, you have a team that's so god awful that you can't help but pick against them. But they're going home, and you can't read too much in the week 1.
See, I knew you were going to say that.
And
but
I got something for that.
When that happens, because teams sometimes, look weird in week 1. But even on paper, the Giants look horrible. They have no weapons, and there's no one on that team that should scare you. There's nobody good on that team.
Yeah. The whole thing with them adjusting, they're adjusting to the new offense too. I mean, it's still taking time. It's clear they are not in sync at all. And
that can change fast.
Defense is an absolute mess. Everything on that team is an absolute mess. at least to bring up another NFC East team, at least the Cowboys have weapons on offense that they can put drives together. They just like to shoot themselves in all 10 toes and then their ankles, and then their shins, and then their knees. I mean, they're even more of a mess than the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have what many are considering to be one of the worst defenses ever this year. And it's crazy that two teams in this division. It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, Coughlin is going to lose control of that locker room, and it's going to. No one's going to care after Week 5, and no one's except maybe Eli, maybe, because it even seems like he doesn't. He's not into this year.
I have a very nice historical comp, and I don't know if Chris Berman said this, but let's follow the words of Chris Berman and take a ride in the Wayback Machine. The date, September 7th, 2003. The location, Orchard Park, New York. The stadium, Ralph Wilson Stadium. The final score, Buffalo Bills 31, Patriots 0.
Mm-hmm.
The Buffalo Bills finished the season 6-10. The Patriots finished the season 14-2, winning the Super Bowl. But here's the thing: 2 years prior, in 2001, they won the Super Bowl with a then unknown Tom Brady. The next year, they went 9-7. And most of it floppy. So imagine the comp to the Giants 2 years into the Super Bowl, looking kind of sloppy on the mops. They stink bomb, no. It tells you nothing.
But they always look sloppy. You can't say that they go from. They're always like a 9-7 team that just happens to get hot at the end of the year if they're going to the Super Bowl. This is not a 9-7 Giants team. This is like a 4-12 Giants. The way they're playing right now, the way they've looked. I mean, the preseason. Look back at the preseason. Everything's indicative of just this team being terrible.
Yes, and Eli has been on a steep decline over the past couple years. Those picks that he threw were entirely his fault, and they were horrible. I'm sticking with it. Start everybody against the Giants until I say otherwise.
I second that opinion.
That's a bad policy on the West Coast. Taking a West Coast team like that early.
You can listen to the guy who lost in Week 1. You can do that.
Rough. Well, Mark, do you have any other matchups?
A smaller version. I'm more interested in like travel days, trap games, stuff like that. I think Houston is going to be let down. They're going to Oakland. Like on paper, that seems like Houston has a good defense. They look good. Should be no problem. Oakland's a tough place to play, especially with a god-awful quarterback and a younger team. That's another sneaky trap game.
I'm with you there. I like that.
I like Derek Carr. I was impressed.
Yeah, he didn't put up perfectly numbers or like impressive numbers or anything, but he didn't look bad. I mean, he traveled out east, and the score is a little bit misleading because that touchdown was late to draw to 19-14, or give the Oakland 14 points. But he finished with all right numbers for first game, making that kind of trip.
But they look flat and out of sync, and I'm telling you, West Coast teams, when they travel like that, typically do.
Yeah.
They couldn't establish the run, and they look disjointed. That's how Arizona's going to look this week.
We'll see. One matchup I'm looking forward to, and this goes back to the injuries, and if the Bears wideouts are banged up as they are, they're playing San Fran this week, and that could be. I mean, that's a physical defense. I know they're not the same defense right now. They have a couple suspensions, injuries, and whatnot, but that's one to look out for. I mean, come game time, adrenaline gets going, and those guys are probably going to be able to go and not be hindered too much. But that's one to keep an eye on. And then the other one, just in general, football in general, the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins are playing this week. And think about this for a second. After that game, one of these teams is going to be basically in sole possession of first place in the AFC East. They're going to be 2-0, and the other, the Patriots have a legit chance to be 0-2. Just saying.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Just saying. Max, you're muted.
Sorry, if you're also, but take a look at stats in the Belichick Brady era. They don't lose back-to-back games.
Yeah, they don't. I know they do not lose back-to-back games. Rarely.
This is the first time ever they've been in last place.
Yeah, it was in sole possession of last place. And do you know the last time they did start 0-2? What happened?
I guess they won the Super Bowl.
0-1. It was 0-1. So go back
Yeah.
to that. They went They started 0-2, and went on to win the Super Bowl. So
Yep.
something to think about.
Mhm.
Matchups to avoid. I mean, I don't really have any off the top of my head. I mean, maybe if you're desperate and went ahead and picked up whoever St. Louis's third string quarterback, you're in real trouble. But other than that, yeah.
A sneaky good team this year that not a lot of people are talking about are the Titans. I think they're a really strong team this year.
I mentioned them. I did mention them last week. They're a team that a lot of people have been talking about potentially being a surprise team, which to me that sort of ruins it. If you're talking about them being a surprise and they end up doing well, not really that much of a surprise. But yeah, I really liked how they. I mean, they manhandled in a way Kansas City. They couldn't do anything. Although the other side of that story, if you look, do you know how many touches Jamal Charles got?
I saw he had 4 after halftime.
11 total touches. Andy Reid went back to vintage Andy Reid and abandoned the run game completely.
Well, they were down the whole game.
If that continues, if that continues, you can come ask me what happens. I'll let you know because I suffered through it for 14 years.
Yeah, that must have been hell going to the playoffs in like 12 or 14 years.
It was awful, let me tell you.
I got another good one. Detroit at Carolina. That strikes me as like a good step back to reality for Detroit. Like everything went right in week 1.
Yeah,
That's a sneaky one on the road. Caldwell is not a good coach. They're on the road, and Carolina's an undervalued defense. It seems like they could do some damage against Detroit, especially with the pass rush.
Think about that one.
Right.
You mentioned the road. Do you know? I saw this stat this week. Stafford's road record is like 10-20. He's an awful road quarterback. He's terrible.
And he has an awful head coach against a good pass rush. That's interesting.
It looks like a much better one when you think about it than it actually is on paper.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that the Lions looked amazing, but they were against the Giants.
Yeah.
So the Giants, as I already said, are.
I'll be happy to accept your apology next week when the Giants are 1-1.
Okay. All right.
They win a sloppy 21-10 game against Arizona.
Right.
Oh man.
I can't wait.
All right. Any other matchups that you're looking forward to or avoid?
Well, I named most of them, so.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered them all. I'm looking down the schedule here.
Denver, Kansas. Yeah, Denver, Kansas City. Denver. Start anyone on Denver.
Yeah, I think this is maybe a bit of a stretch, but I think that could be a shootout.
It's gonna have to be.
Denver's D looked pretty formidable against Indy, but if they do start slinging it, Alex Smith is gonna have to go back. So maybe it's a bit of a track meet there. So maybe you start guys on both sides to take a chance. Whatever you think. Donnie Avery was on a lot of. He had a pretty low owned percentage in ESPN, so that's a name to look for.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. I will say this though, I can't shake this feeling about Denver. I'm not totally impressed. I know that's one game, but I get the feeling I compare them to New England maybe 2 years ago, where they're like a vulnerable powerhouse. Yeah, they're going to be good, but they're going to be like floppy good, where they just kind of like go to the Super Bowl by default or something like that.
Right.
They're really vulnerable.
Definitely. Yeah, based on what I saw in Week 1 from both teams, if we get a rematch of Seattle, Denver in the Super Bowl, you'll get the same result.
Well, you're going to get to see it next week. Play out.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Week 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's going to be
a big one.
But Denver's
in Seattle
by 13 against Kansas City. That seems ridiculous.
Is it in Seattle?
Pretty sure it is.
Trying to load it
Lord. Oh, no. Poor Manning.
Oh, it's in Seattle. Yes, it
Poor
is.
Manning.
Oh, man.
No. Is that the Sunday night?
No, it's a 4:25.
Wow.
What?
Man, those are high standards.
Ridiculous.
I know.
Well, they gotta get the Jets in the Monday
time game.
Oh, there isn't. The Steelers, I think, are the. Yeah,
Oh,
you gotta get the Steelers in the prime time.
That's ridiculous. How is that not the primetime game?
Steelers, Panthers.
It's ridiculous. All right. Let's get ahead to random banter and bold predictions. Who wants to start?
Bold predictions. I'm trying to come up with one.
I said a lot of them. The Giants win.
I'll give you one. I'll start. Phillip Rivers at home against Seattle will go for 30 points.
Whoo, boy. If it were the second half of the season,
I can't.
if it were the second half of the season, I'd agree with you. But you got to remember how there's two teams that always start and end the same way: the Bills and the Chargers. But it's opposite because the Bills always start strong, always
get hot,
and then they flounder. And the Chargers always start slow, and then they come on at the end of the season.
They're also the other sort of thing that might be a red flag in that one is that they do have one less day, and Seahawks have like 3 extra days. I actually think the 3. This is going to sound crazy, and it's just a gut feeling, so bear with me. I think the 3 extra days hurt Seattle in this instance because they're coming off such a high energy win, and they were all pumped and jacked, and their heads are getting bigger as they sit around longer, that they're going to come into this game in San Diego and just get rocked. I just have this feeling.
This is another great trap game, and I know now I've said like 4 of the games this coming week are trap games. But
just to
argue this one.
That point, before you finish the point, it's
win, long layoff. Big game coming next. Big game, long layoff. Big game next week.
Yeah,
it's the easy one to overlook.
This entire week of games was when I was going through making picks. They're tough to make this week. There's a lot of good, close. I don't know which way. It could be a coin flip kind of game. So
I think Seattle wins, but it's gonna be another one of those like grinded out games.
Yeah.
So I don't see the 30 points, but what do I know?
Bold predictions, baby.
My bold prediction is Le'Veon Bell, top 3 running back for fantasy this week. I think he's really good. Now again, he faced the Browns in week 1, but I don't think the Ravens D is that much better. I think it's another bad D. So I think Le'Veon Bell is going to have a good night on Thursday.
Cool.
All right, I'll go with Andrew Luck as the number 1 overall player in fantasy this week.
Woo!
The mood is right. Prime time, shootout. They're probably trolling.
Do you think it's a shootout?
Yeah, well, they're going to be down by like 17 points.
They're going to be down by 17 points?
Yes.
The Colts, right?
Yes, without a doubt, and they're going to have to sling it.
Who do you think wins that game? I don't want to make that pick.
At home, I don't know. Flip a coin. I'll just say the Colts because it'll make you mad.
Yeah, that's fine.
Of course, I knew you were going to say that.
I expected nothing different, except I didn't expect you to take so long.
I'm going to say something that I mean as a compliment, but I hope you don't take it as an insult. I think Philadelphia looks like a 10-6 team.
I'm fine with that. Their defense is still so shaky to me.
But it's going to be just because everyone else around them is maybe not quite 10-6 teams.
I think they're a 10-6 team, but I think they're a 6-0 NFC East team.
Yeah.
No, that's not how that works. They're going to lose. Remember them last year? They lost some winnable games.
Yeah,
I don't think that. But
they were like 5-1 in the division last year.
The other NFC East teams are worse this year. They're bad.
Washington, we didn't even mention them on this show. They're in shambles right now.
Oh, they're horrible. They suck.
But once again, it's the first game of the new coach. Maybe it's not that bad. It's hard to say. Like,
I laid it out. One of my season-long bold predictions was Griffin gets benched at some point. I know he did last year. That was Shanahan sort of going for like a last-ditch attempt to save his job. I think he legit gets benched this year.
The only problem is Cousins isn't that good of a quarterback. Like, why punt on your franchise guy for like the second coming of Kyle Orton if you're lucky?
This kid, he's either going to get hurt or he's going to run the franchise into the ground. He already has in a way. If you ask me.
I wouldn't judge them until they play a home game. They could very easily be like an 8-8 team, just like a schizophrenic bad road team that finishes 8-8.
Yeah, we'll see. But all right, well, I think that wraps it up for week 2.
Yep.
Here in Crickets. So
I'm running out of battery, so it's good time as any.
Well, let's do it then. So Seth, we missed you, but we did well without you. So hopefully we'll see you next week. But good luck everyone, and enjoy the week of football.